Sometimes life throws you into moments you don't see coming. Everything feels good. Everything feels right. And then out of nowhere, the energy shifts. That girl who used to smile at your messages, she's suddenly taking hours to reply. The plans you two used to make effortlessly, she's canceling them now. And you sit there, staring at your phone, wondering where things went wrong, wondering what changed, wondering why it feels like the ground under your feet just moved an inch. I want you to breathe for a second, because I know exactly where your mind goes in moments like this. That sudden panic, that twist in your stomach, that urge to do something, anything, to bring her back close again. But listen closely. The way you handle this moment matters far more than the moment itself. Too many men fall into the same trap the moment a girl pulls away. They start acting like everything depends on her, like their worth, their confidence. Their peace is tied to one person's shifting energy. And that's the exact moment things start to spiral. You see, the first mistake most guys make is panic. That impulse to grasp for her attention the second she drifts. You start firing off messages you didn't think through. You ask questions she never asked you to ask. You chase clarity instead of embodying confidence. But here's the truth no one tells you. Panic doesn't pull her closer. Panic pushes her further. Because panic is the opposite of power. Women feel when a man loses his center. And the moment you do, you stop being the man she felt drawn to in the first place. The real strength? It's in staying grounded. It's in breathing through that moment. It's in reminding yourself that someone stepping back isn't a threat, it's feedback. And a man who is calm in uncertainty becomes 10 times more attractive than a man who breaks at the first sign of distance. But then comes the second mistake, the quiet one, the mental trap, overthinking. You know that feeling, right? When your mind turns into a movie projector, replaying every conversation, scanning every message for hidden meaning, trying to decode her energy like a puzzle that's missing half the pieces. And the more you think, the worse you feel. Overthinking doesn't bring answers. It brings anxiety. It convinces you of problems that don't even exist. It pushes you to act out of fear instead of confidence. And fear always shows. In your tone, in your timing, in the way you suddenly start behaving like a man who's afraid to lose instead of a man who knows his value. Instead of drowning in your thoughts, shift your focus back to something that matters. Yourself, your goals, your routine, your growth. Because the man who lives deeply, the man who invests in himself, the man who moves forward even when emotions try to hold him back, that man becomes magnetic. Not because he pretends not to care, but because his life is bigger than one moment of uncertainty. Then comes mistake number 3, the urge to fix everything right now. The impulse to rush in with a grand gesture, a long emotional message, a big apology for something you didn't even do wrong. You want to repair something that isn't broken. You just don't like the silence. But here's the secret. Attraction is not a faucet you can turn back on by force. You can't talk someone into feeling what they don't feel. You can't prove your worth to someone who hasn't asked you to. And you definitely can't rebuild connection by chasing it. Real connection returns in spaciousness, in confidence, in the energy of a man who says, "I'm good with or without you, but I'd love for you to be here." That's not arrogance. That's self-respect. And the moment she senses that, something shifts inside her. She feels the difference between a man who's desperate to keep her and a man who chooses her. even when he doesn't need her. Now, let's talk about something subtle but powerful. The moment jealousy steps in. When she pulls back and suddenly your mind starts noticing everything else she's doing. The comments she's getting, the people she's around, the places she's going without you. And instantly, your heart tightens. You want answers, reassurance, confirmation that you're still the one she's choosing. But reacting to every small thing, that's the surest way to look insecure. A man's strength isn't measured by how loudly he reacts. It's measured by how quietly he stays composed. Women don't want a man who panics at shadows. They want a man who knows no one else can replace him because of who he is, not because of how tightly he holds on. The truth, when you stay centered, when you refuse to be rattled by the little things, you show her a version of yourself she can trust, not because you're controlling the situation, but because you're controlling yourself. And finally, the mistake that ruins more connections than anything else, sacrificing your standards. Giving up your boundaries just to keep the peace. Bending backwards so she won't leave. Lowering your expectations so she won't get upset. And slowly, quietly, without realizing it, you start losing yourself in the process. But here's a truth that will change your life if you really hear it. When you abandon your self-respect to keep someone, you lose both, the person and yourself. A high-value man never trades his worth for temporary closeness. He doesn't chase someone who treats him like an option. He doesn't tolerate disrespect just because he doesn't want to lose someone. And he doesn't shrink himself to fit someone else's emotional inconsistency. Because here's the bottom line. A woman cannot respect a man who doesn't respect himself. And without respect, attraction dies, slowly, quietly, but completely. So what do you do when a girl pulls away? You don't panic. You don't overthink. You don't chase. You don't crumble. You breathe. You center yourself. You return to your values. You stand tall in who you are. You let your presence speak louder than your fear. And most importantly, you remember that anyone who truly wants to be in your life will always reveal themselves through their actions, not their confusion. If you've been through this, you're not alone. And you're not broken. You're just learning how powerful you truly are when you stop fighting for someone's attention and start standing in your worth.